Yo, welcome back again today, guys. Today we're going to be talking about a trade agreement being made between India and Tanzania, the East African country of Tanzania. So, India and Tanzania have a very interesting relationship. Of course, it's trade, so a lot of countries trade with each other. I think some people are still under the notion that like certain countries only trade with other countries, or they don't trade at all. I don't know why, but some people have messaged me before and say, "Oh, like we don't need to be trading, or we can just do everything ourselves, or whatever it might be." And maybe some countries can sustain themselves more in certain areas, but it's a global world now. Like you have to trade. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but like trade is essential, especially when a country might not have something, or maybe they have something but they can't develop it. But that's a whole nother story, right? So trade amongst Africa and Asia and the rest of the world has been going on for thousands of years, literally. So of course you got to be cautious when you trade with other people to make sure that your country or your group gets exactly what it needs, or you don't really get played to the left with the deal, right? Sometimes you get played to the left with the deal, sometimes you get better in the deal, sometimes it's equal, right? But trade between Africa and the world is nothing new, and a lot of people, I think, they think that this is something new, especially when it comes to like China or India or things like that. Of course, they're superpowers, so we already know that they're going to try to leverage different countries, right, around the world, because they're a superpower, the same way that the United States does. But you also have to realize that this is nothing new. This has been going on for thousands of years. Trade has been going on for thousands of years. So with that out the way, right? Tanzania and India have come to agreement. Actually, I think they're going to come to agreement today, if I'm correct, the 24th, right? January, February, March, right? So the 24th of March, I think they're going to come to, or maybe they're going to finalize it exactly today. But instead of using American dollars to trade amongst Tanzania and India, they're going to use their local currencies. So this is going to ramp up even more trade, right? Because right now between India and Tanzania, there's between 2.2 and 2.4 billion dollars worth of, or USD worth of trade happening every year. Tanzania takes in a little bit more in trade or import than it does export to India. I think Tanzania takes in 2.4 billion dollars worth of import, which that import from India is engineers, medical supplies, gasoline, petrol. And then Tanzania exports out mostly gold in agriculture, but it exports out $2.2 billion USD a year to India. So this relationship has been growing for a while now. It's been a minute since they've been trading with each other, and they have come to agreement to stop trading in American dollars and to trade in the local currency. The country of India, or the Indian government, they use what? The Indian rupee. Rupee is their national money. And in Tanzania, they use the Tanzanian shilling. So how this is going to work is, to my understanding, is that each country is going to have banks from the opposite country. So in India, there's going to be Tanzanian banks. And then in Tanzania, there's going to be Indian banks. So what's going to happen is let's say, for instance, example, if you're in India, right, and you're trying to buy some types of goods from Tanzania, what you would do is you would go and you would transfer once the agreement is made between the seller and then obviously the buyer in India, the Indian buyer, right, company, organization, individual people, groups, whatever it might be, they'll go to a bank in India, which is one of these specialty banks, right, Tanzanian banks. They'll transfer the money over to Tanzania, and then once the money is in the Tanzanian bank in Tanzania, that money will be transferred from Indian rupees to Tanzanian shillings and then distributed out to the seller. And so opposite will happen the same way, right? There'll be Indian banks within Tanzania, and so when a seller from Tanzania goes to sell it to a organization, company, group, or person in India, they will go to this bank that has a specialized account, right? Because both of all these banks, the ones in India, the ones in Tanzania, will have a specialized account that you deposit and they send through that account so they can make that transfer of currency happen. So the buyer in Tanzania will take his money, or the company's money, Tanzanian company, right? And they will go to that bank, they will go to that Indian bank, and from Tanzanian shillings, it will be sent over to India. And once it gets to India, it will be converted to Indian rupees at that Indian bank and then distribute it out to the seller in India. So that's sort of kind of how it's going to work. It's really interesting because I'm not going to say that I'm a pro at banking or understanding the financial system, because I'm not. I understand it to some extent. Of course, I'm not a professional, right? But this is to my understanding. India actually trades with a lot of other African countries as well. They trade with Kenya, they trade with other African countries, and they trade with like other European countries as well, and obviously other countries in Asia as well. So this is very interesting that they're going to get rid of the American dollar. The American dollar is going to go bye-bye when it comes to trade, I guess, between India and Tanzania. I wonder if other countries will follow suit with this. And it would be interesting to see what is the actual effects, if there's pros or cons, or maybe it makes things just a little bit more efficient. So I'm pretty sure at these banks that are being set up, you can do regular business with other, obviously, currency, American dollar, the yen, whatever it might be, right? But you have these accounts within these banks that are specialized for this transfer and this conversion of currency. So I'm just interested to know, like, what is really the effects of this, right? Like, I'm trying to figure this out in my head outside of like maybe a faster streamline of currency getting to other people without having to necessarily exchange it another time. Well, I'm thinking about it. I'm just thinking about it. But this might possibly, obviously, make the currency stronger, because if more people are spending the currency and then there's more production and then there's more trade, then obviously the currency will possibly go up, as far as, obviously creating more jobs, and also the productivity of the country and the trade of the country, and like what it's exporting versus what it's importing. And there's a lot of different factors, obviously, of what makes a currency strong and dollar strong, right? And then obviously the global market and the demand for that currency, and how safe people think that currency is, right? Which is obviously one of the reasons that American dollar is so high, because obviously it fluctuates to where sometimes the euro is more than the American dollar, sometimes the American dollar is more. It just depends on the economy, right? But a lot of the reason that some currencies are very strong is because they have productivity behind them, they have work behind them, they have productivity. And then therefore, if you know that this currency is going to be stable, there's even a more of a relief and satisfaction. And so therefore, if there's a more stability in a currency, and a country knows that this country has that stability and that productivity, which obviously America has what, 330 million something odd people, and obviously it makes a ridiculous amount of companies when it comes to, especially technology companies, all these different companies, right? IBM, whatever companies you want to think about, right? And it has a very, very high GDP, right? So these are things that can make a currency stronger. And maybe the thinking behind this with India and Tanzania, as well as other things, is to strengthen the local currency, which at some point will obviously make things a little bit more level. It's interesting because it makes me think, it's like, the whole world takes American dollars for the most part, right? Like, even obviously super strong economies, other economies, they take the American dollar, you exchange it. But it's just so interesting to me, because I'm like, it would be funny to try to use a foreign currency in America. It's so interesting just to think about it, because when you look at the other side of the pond, or the grass is greener, or whatever you want to say, right? The flip side of people that actually use American currency all the time or more, or want the American currency over their native currency, is very interesting to me, because obviously I've always thought about it. One time I came back from Canada, just a quick story, and when I was in Jamaica, and when I came back, I had some money left over, and I just thought it was interesting. I'm like, you know what? It'd be funny. Like, what if I went and tried to use this at American stores? Like, what would happen? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm pretty sure if I mixed in some like Canadian coins to American coins, I'm pretty sure like they might not even really notice for real. Because sometimes you go to the store or to fast food, and if it's a lot of change and you're like, oh, it's $2 worth of change, sometimes they don't even count it. Like, they'll count a little bit, and sometimes they don't even count it. And I don't even know. Sometimes people, I don't even know if they're versed enough, or even like worldly enough to even understand like the difference between American coin sometimes and maybe even a Canadian coin. Like, so anyways, maybe they might even think it's an older coin. I don't know. But anyways, that's what's happening between Tanzania and India. They're trying to get rid of the American dollar and use their local currencies. What do you guys think? Like and subscribe, turn on the bell notification so you get all my videos. I mean, all social medias, which is African Network, which is Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, Facebook. Till next time, guys. Peace. One love.